For my discrepant event, I did lift an ice cube with salt. So what you need for that is a glass of cold water, some salt, an ice cube, as well as a piece of thread. So you want the water to be cold. So some questions I have before we do the event would be, what do you see in the glass? So just having students observe what's in the glass. By looking at the water, do you think the water is cold or hot? Why? And I would like for them to say that they think it's cold. If it's hot, there would be steam coming up more than likely. So we would think that it would be cold. So then what you do is you put an ice cube in the cold water, lay your piece of thread on top of the ice cube, make sure it's touching the ice cube. Just put some salt on the ice where the thread is touching it. And then you have to let it wait. You have to wait a few minutes. You have to give it a few minutes for the experiment to work. So some questions I have while we're waiting is, how could I lift this ice cube without getting under the cube? So without going under the cube, how could I lift this piece of ice out of the water? At what temperature does ice melt? And that would be at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, ice begins to melt. What do you think the salt does to the melting point of the ice? And the answer to that one would be that it lowers it. So where the salt is, the ice is going to begin to melt. So then you can just kind of lift up one part just to make sure that and then you have a piece of ice that you've lifted with string, with a piece of thread. So after that, I've got some questions, which is, what must the melted ice above the string do in order to lift the cube? And so that would be the ice. When you put the salt on it, the ice begins to melt quicker, and then once the salt dissolves, it freezes again. So it freezes over the string, which allows us to pick up the ice cube. Where else do we find this principle of lowering the melting point of ice applied in daily life? That one would be tricky if you're in a coastal town maybe, or in the lower part of the country, because you may not have ice as much around as we do up in the northern parts. But one area is whenever the roads get icy, we put salt on the roads to melt the ice to make it safer for us to drive.